Hello, I'm Leah from Artisan You, and today I'm going to teach you how to do lace on your pottery. So you can do lace on a lot of things. It's easiest on something with a smooth, regular surface. Like doing it on a figurine won't be very effective, but something like this that's gently sloped works very well, and you can use pretty much any lace as long as you can get it to stay in place. So something like this mug, which I'm going to show you on today, will be very simple to do, or a plate, or this little dish. The more of a irregular shape you get, the more difficult it will be to get the lace to look very regular. So on this vase, you can see how there are some pieces where the lace doesn't show up, the pattern of the lace, and that's because the lace was wrinkled in that spot when this vase was getting painted, which if you like that look, that's totally fine. It's just more difficult to keep the lace in place if you have a very curved or sloped or irregular surface. So with that, let's get started. So for supplies here, I just have water to wash my brushes, paper towels to dry them after I wash them, and I just have a plastic lid that I'm going to use for my palette. The other thing you need is a piece of lace. Pretty much any lace will work. A lace that may have thicker pieces and thinner pieces in the fabric may not work so well. Like the fabric itself is thicker and then thinner because the paint could pool under the lace, but any of your typical lace should work fine. Also, you'll need a lighter color. I like to use white, but a yellow or a tan would also work depending on how dark your darker color is. So you also need a darker color. So just make sure one of your colors is significantly darker than the other, depending on how much you want your lace to show up. If you pick, say, a white and a pale pink, the lace will show up, but it won't be very clear. So I'm going to start by painting two thin coats of white on the outside of my mug. I'm not going to do the handle because I'm not going to put lace on the handle. But I'm just going to take a large brush. This lace is easiest with a large brush. And I'm just going to do a couple quick coats on this mug. They don't have to be super thick as long as you get it coated pretty well, because any irregularities in your coat thickness won't be very noticeable. So I'm going to quick finish my two coats and then I'll show you how to do your lace. Okay, so I've done my two coats and it's still very slightly damp. So I'm going to take my lace and put it on my mug the way I want it to be. Let me see. So I'm not going to put lace on the handle, so I'm just going to worry about the flat area here. So I'm just going to lay it the way I want it and make sure I get what part of the pattern or whatever I want on it. Okay. So that looks pretty good. So then I'm just going to hold it on there with my hand, my other hand, and then I'm going to paint a quick third coat over my lace. This is going to act like glue to hold it down. So make sure you kind of get it in the indents and all that, just to make sure that your other color of paint won't bleed through the lace. So do a pretty extensive coat. Just make sure it's all stuck down very well. And I'm going to try to get mine to go underneath the handle. So we'll see how that works. just be sure that you don't have any rumples in it unless you want rumples. Because like I showed you on that vase, if you have a rumple or wrinkle in your lace, then the pattern of the lace won't show in that area. You might use a lot of paint for this step. So you'll end up with your lace being pretty wet. So once you're finished doing this step, gluing your lace down with your base color of paint, your light color, then you're going to want to let it dry all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and finish painting over my lace here and then let it dry. And then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so my paint is mostly dry, and as you can see, it's holding on the lace by itself, which is what we want. So now I'm going to do my 2 coats or so of my darker color over top of this. If you want, you can also do 2 different colors or whatever. Just make sure you get 2 good coats on it. So I have a dark purple here that I'm going to start with. I might add some blue to it too, I'll see. But I'm just going to paint this over it kind of like I did the white. You want to do kind of more of a stamping action instead of a dragging one, just so that it gets in all the little holes. But don't try to force it too much because you don't want it to bleed underneath your lace. Let's see. Yeah, we'll add a little blue. And if you go over it this many times like I'm doing, I'm just kind of going back and forth on the same spot, you don't need to go over it more than 1 time after it dries, because it will be pretty sufficiently coated. And if you're going to mix colors kind of like I am, you have to be careful because you're not exactly sure what it'll turn out like. But I've learned that with these paints that we use at Artisan U, the color it'll turn out like is fairly similar to the color the paint is when it's wet. Just maybe somewhat darker in general. Just be aware that you can't be exactly sure what it'll look like if you mix colors. So just make sure you get it covered well. Okay, so I'm going to touch up a little purple above the handle here. The lace doesn't really touch. Just get the right color. While I wait for my lace to dry a little bit. You don't need it to dry all the way, but enough that the paint is set. And then you can touch up the handle or the rim or whatever you need to fix after you pull the lace off. Come on, blue. and some of my blue doesn't look real well covered at the bottom. So I'm gonna add a little bit more to it. There. And I did kind of a blend of two colors. You could do stripes or just one color looks good too. So I'm gonna let this sit for just a minute or two. Not even that. Give it a little time for the paint to set because there's quite a bit of paint in it. So if you pull it off too soon, the paint will run. So I'm gonna give it a couple minutes and then I'll show you what it looks like when it comes off. Okay, so I've let my lace dry most of the way. It's still a little bit wet, but so that's because it's soaked into the lace. So I'm going to gently start peeling it off. And if you're not sure, you can always check. So if it comes off cleanly like it is here, then you've let it dry long enough. If it starts running when you pull it off, then you have to let it dry for longer. So I'm just gonna slowly and gently peel it off. And you can see the design start showing up. And there we are. So you can see how that really makes the details on it pop. And it turned out pretty good. So now the last thing I need to do is I'm going to take a smaller brush. Where did I put my pen? And I'm going to touch up the rim and paint the handle. Okay, so here's our finished mug with lace on it. So that's how you put lace on a piece of pottery. I hope you had lots of fun doing this and can't wait to see how your projects turn out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.